have experienced some form of sexual assault in their lifetime. In many hospitals across the U.S., nurses are becoming specialized in collecting evidence from sexual assault survivors. KTIV's Katie Koppel takes us inside UnityPoint Health St. Luke's in Sioux City.
Hi, I heard that you're going through a tough time right now.
Sexual assault, domestic violence, rape, crimes that impact women and men every day. For survivors, reporting the assault and seeking medical care can be hard.
And then I came back, and I don't have a lot of memories after that.
At UnityPoint Health St. Luke's 2 Sioux City hospitals, SANE nurses are there to help.
I'm going to kind of go through this kit with you.
SANE stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner, a registered nurse with a specialized training to help collect evidence from survivors of sexual assault. Nurses like Andrea Queen.
We're with the patient for the entirety of their stay here or their exam, along with an advocate that we usually call in.
Queen is one of several nurses at UnityPoint's emergency rooms trained to help survivors.
It's really victim or patient driven.
The exam, collecting evidence that can be used by authorities to investigate the crime. And it can be invasive and take time. But everything is done with the survivor's consent, giving them back what was taken during the assault.
And they don't have to do it all. Anytime they say, no, I don't want to do that part, that's perfectly fine.
Throughout the whole entire exam, we'll be like, this is what we're doing next. I mean, if they want to proceed with it, that we can. If they need a moment, we could do that. Or if they want to completely refuse it, that's totally fine too.
Registered nurse Lily McAdoo says it's all about the survivor. A big part of their training is how to properly collect evidence.
Okay, so I'm just going to have you open up for me.
It's important to know how to properly gather the evidence so that in case further down the road, they can hopefully get justice.
Women or men, young or old, these nurses put their patients' needs above all else, getting them the help, resources, and connections they need as a survivor of sexual assault.
Remember is that at any part of this exam, if you're uncomfortable, you can say, I don't want to do that part. I really hope that we stress that they have the right to say no at any point in the exam. Like, still come in, even if you don't want to report it, we can collect and keep you anonymous until you're ready to make that call.
In Sioux City, Katie Koppel, KTIV News 4.
Right now, there are 11 nurses between Sioux City's 2 hospitals who have SANE training. Several more are going through training right now. Each person that is met by one of these nurses is also connected to community resources